Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Welcome back, Smacketeers, to Cinesmack, the podcast that's killed more men than Cecil Beatham. I'm your host, Mike Keeler, and I apologize for my voice right now. I'm fighting a horrible cold. But joining me, as always, award-winning videographer and owner of Cheshire Moon Films, Tom Haggis.
Hey, looks like I picked the wrong week to stop drinking scotch. I screwed that up.
Owner of One Genome Short Productions and award-winning filmmaker, Gabriel Rowold.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
And then owner of Outpost 515 Productions and the 48-hour film project producer, Sam Twomey.
Random quote from Blazing Saddles.
And joining us, our guest this month from Evil Grin Gift Box and also a 48-hour film project award winner, Mr. Tom Rapp. Thanks for joining us, Tom.
Where are the white women at?
There we go. All right. Well, if you couldn't tell from what most of them were saying, I'll go ahead and poke the monkey, and they can let us know what we're going to be discussing this evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, pilots and cowboys, welcome to the main event! Tonight, we have a battle royale between two legendary comedies to see who will take off and who will be left during the French mistake. In the first quarter from 1980, directed by Jim Abrams, David Zucker, and Jerry Zucker. Starring Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty, and Lloyd Bridges. Airplane! In the second quarter from 1974, directed by Mel Brooks. Starring Cleavon Little, Gene Wilder, and Slim Pickens. Blazing Saddles!
Does anyone want to say anything before we get started?
Shit.
Thank you, Sam.
Testes. Is my mic working?
I'll take that as a no. So let's go on to our first category, which is writing.
I watched both of these films last night with my wife, and we've been talking about both of these movies a lot today. And I'm going to say up front, I have a bad feeling about this show. I think it's going to be more lopsided than we thought it was going to be, because as great as Blazing Saddles is, it's starting to show its age a little bit, and a lot of the comedy in it has really kind of it's kind of worn a little bit thin, and the racism and the homophobia jokes and stuff in there are starting to product of its age kind of thing, and I think it's losing some of its cuteness, to put it that way. Whereas, I mean, the jokes in Airplane are really, really fantastic. The conflict that is in the story, I think, is a lot more solid. I mean, it's very straightforward. It's another, one of those Harold and Kumar very simple from point A to point B plot lines. Whereas Blazing Saddles, there's trying to figure out exactly what all is taking place. It's not complicated or anything, but some of the plot devices in it are a little bit more convoluted than Airplane. And I think Airplane is just a much more solid script. And a lot of the credit needs to be given to the cast, and we'll get to it in the next topic. But the writing, the skeleton of the film underneath, I think, is a lot stronger for Airplane.
Yeah, I felt like Blazing Saddles was very kind of meandering in many respects. It kind of there's not a clear plot line to it. It seems more like it's a bunch of short little gags or skits kind of just stitched together. But I do feel like the strong point of Blazing Saddles is kind of the confrontation of racism and the kind of, the satirical take on racism in America. And I think from a writing standpoint, that was very bold and very brave. And while we kind of cringe at some of those things, I read a blog post where a person was saying, I kind of feel guilty for laughing at these jokes. Should I feel guilty? Because I know they're making fun of racism. They're not really necessarily being, straight up racist. It's poking fun of it. But even knowing that, you still feel a little bit uncomfortable with it nowadays. For some reason, I did anyway. It's like, oh, should I be laughing at this? I don't know. So I felt like the strong point for Blazing Saddles was approaching its topic kind of unabashedly and just kind of just putting it out there.
But I think that from, like you said at the beginning, it meandered so much. Like, it was kind of stitched, or was that Tom that said that? It was kind of stitched together, whereas I thought, the writing in Airplane was just, genuinely funny. And it can be said that it's an older movie too, but I think it holds up a lot better in the writing. And it's very broad, so it's not, I don't know, it's a hard thing to talk about, feeling those charged words when you start off and you're building into those racial stereotypes and you're hit with the word nigger right away, and then it's fag jokes and this and that. And I get it, and it does empower it later and kind of makes up for it by saying, all of this is, these small-minded people and the way they see the world, that's not the way it is. But it's a little harder to palate, I think. I mean, for me, writing would have to go to Airplane just because since the first time I saw it, I couldn't stop quoting it, and it just gets richer every time I see it.
I think I kind of agree a little bit on the front of Airplane being more of a succinct kind of scripted out story, but I think the jokes and the punches in Blazing Saddles are a lot funnier. I think the writing in both of them is obviously fantastic, because I don't think any of us dislike either of these films, but Airplane seemed a little bit more, I don't know, childish, I guess. It was a lot more kind of just like gags and little tricks like that, and shorter, I don't know. I just like the boldness of Blazing Saddles, because at the time, I mean, yeah, it is dated now, but think about when it came out, there was nothing ever like it before. Right,
and I think, one of the things with Blazing Saddles, and I think that it's, racial satire, that, because I can't think of another way to say it, racial satire has evolved in such a way. And, South Park even has done, episodes on racism, and they've taken it and made it a little bit more complex. And I think Blazing Saddles it's very basic, like, hey, isn't it funny how we're all different? And, it's really kind of involved into, it's actually kind of funny how we're all the same. That's actually where the humor is, and that we're all really not all that different. And I think that's where Blazing Saddles' age is starting to show a little bit in the way we've changed, the way that we look at racism. The way we looked at it in 1974, now we look back like, wow, we were completely off on this. And I'll talk about the Airplane, what Tom said about acting. I'll talk about that a little bit later, because I got about the childness of it. So
yeah, and there was another blog post that I read that I thought was kind of interesting, and I'd like to hear your guys' take on this too. It says, it's worth noting that as groundbreaking as Blazing Saddles was in terms of race, the same can't be said for its treatment of gays and women. The F word, not that one, is thrown around liberally, and the 4 or so women who have lines in the film are either clutching their pearls or taking off their clothes. The movie isn't self-aware at all when it comes to certain groups. And while it may have been a satire of racism, did it fall short in some other areas?
I think they're reaching on that. I think Mel Brooks is pretty broad, plays it pretty broad, no pun intended, on women, in a lot of his comedy.
I agree. I think whoever wrote that is just way too much into the PC world, like trying to be way too politically correct. In my opinion.
that was from NPR.
Oh, I thought Oprah said something.
Well, Oprah and NPR.
Don't do that to me, Sam. Damn it.
Well, the funny thing is, like, I kind of invite stuff like that, because if anything gets people talking about film and discussing it, usually they're going to be able to tell for themselves. Audiences are pretty savvy. If it was kind of straight up offensive to those groups, I don't think it would be held as a classic that it is today. And I agree. When I first was, I hadn't seen it in a long time. When I first saw, some of the language and stuff that they were using, it did kind of hit me a little bit, but almost in a way it kind of perked me up and made me was like, okay, where's this going? And in a lot of ways, they do a good job, I think anyway, making you question what you think about everything. And so the movie is not necessarily insulting one or the other. It's making you think about, what's your view? Would you bring him a pie in the dark of night? Or, it's funny that these people are good people, but they don't feel that they can show that appreciation for the sheriff without sneaking around. Yeah. And in some ways it does ask you questions. So it is strong writing. I just think that Airplane's a little more superior. And it's interesting also to know, I'd love to get you guys' insight on this. I think there's 5 or 6 writers credited on Blazing Saddles and 7 on Airplane. Like, there's a lot of writers on these scripts.
Yeah. Yeah. Were the Airplane ones actually, it looked like those may have been other works that were kind of referenced or something. Like they weren't necessarily writing directly for this script, but they were, it's like, it's a take on a disaster movie and they're giving them credit. I don't know. I couldn't tell.
According to the IMDb page, there's 3 writers, and then the other 3 all wrote a screenplay 0 Hour. I don't know what that is, and I don't know if that was like a short that this was adapted from. I don't have that much.
I'll look it up while you guys keep talking.
One of the things that
Airport 6, we watched the movie that it was based on over at John Hanson's house one time, and it was almost there's a lot of dialogue that's exact. I think it was 0 Hour.
Yeah, it is 0 Hour. Yeah,
and it's funny that Abram and the Zuckers were able to look at that and go, "Do you have any idea how close this movie is to being a comedy?" I mean, if we just change the delivery of some of these lines and the timing and the beats, suddenly a disaster movie becomes a great comedy. And I think that is incredibly insightful in what they were able to dig up. I love that.
And through their writing, they were able to recycle a work that was kind of just, pulpy air drama or what have you, but spin it in a whole new way that, really changed that material.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking at the IMDb page for that 0 Hour, and the characters' names are even the same. There's Ted Stryker, and yeah, I'm not. I guess I'm not seeing any other familiar names necessarily, but it's kind of interesting that they even borrowed the same character name.
One of the things I want to go back to is what Tom said about the funniest jokes. I mean, if you were to rank all the jokes in these movies, I think the top 5 jokes are in Blazing Saddles. And I think some of my favorite exchanges in both movies are the stuff between Bart and Jim. Just the stuff about playing chess and, man, drink like that and not eat, he's going to die. That whole stuff. I mean, that stuff absolutely gets me howling. And I absolutely love the connection between those two. And I guess we'll talk about Gene Wilder and Cleveland Little in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You guys have a couple minutes left. Do you have anything else you want to add? Or can we move on?
Let's take a vote.
All right. Take a vote. We'll start with Tom Haggis.
I'm going to go Airplane, and for a lot of reasons, but one of the things that we didn't talk about real quick, but all of the little side jokes that the really, really minor players in Airplane get to do, I take my coffee black and the jive talkers and all the stuff they do with the passengers on the plane, all those little jokes are it's comedy gold. And I think all of them are so great. And that's why I give it to Airplane, because they were able to get the most out of every single joke in there, I think.
All right. Sam.
I think I'm going to go to Airplane on this one.
Okay.
It's just there's a lot of moments of comedy gold, like Tom said, and some of those were done by the individual performers, possibly some of the bits, but Airplane all the way.
All right, Gabe.
Yeah, as much as I feel like Blazing Saddles was bold and was groundbreaking, I did feel like the story was kind of meandering, and that it was just, like I said, just a bunch of little skits kind of stuck together. I feel like Airplane was a much more cohesive script. It was a more kind of a traditional storyline. And so I feel like Airplane is definitely superior from a writing standpoint.
All right. And Mr. Rapp.
Thanks, Gabe, for taking some of the words right out of my mouth. Although I do think Blazing Saddles overall is funnier because of how punchy and I think better the jokes are as far as writing a succinct single storyline. Airplane has to win on that front because it's point A to point B, and they just get you there and they litter you with great jokes throughout.
All right. Let's see. You guys brought up, multiple writers and everything. Well, the argument between the two PA voiceovers about the abortion comes from a cheap dime store novel, according to the trivia track on the DVD version. That novel is actually Arthur Haley's Airport, which inspired the movie Airport 1970. And Mel, after writing his first two feature films on his own, Mel Brooks was nostalgic for the collaborative group writing style of his days on Your Show of Shows. So he employed 4 other writers to work with. According to co-writer Andrew Bergman, who wrote the treatment on which the film is based, almost all of the scenes include some contribution from the 5 writers, which not a lot of films actually still do that.
No.
So that's pretty awesome. All right, let's move on to acting. Go ahead, Phil.
You know what? Mel Brooks, I want to take this moment and focus my laser beam on you. Your acting became so much more enjoyable as you got older. The only acting that I really didn't like in this entire movie, Blazing Saddles, was you, buddy. And I know you're old and you don't listen to this podcast and you don't give a shit.
His millions of dollars are laughing at you.
Yeah, it's just he's the weakest part of almost the entire cast. Like everybody else is so much fun to watch. Gene Wilder is amazing. Even the small cameo by Dom DeLuise is just fun. I mean, it's just flies in your face. Kind of no holds barred. He lets him go for it, and it's really enjoyable as an audience member to see that. And so then you look at the acting in Airplane, which, as far as comedy goes, that was the comedy standard that was set, for that time, kind of moving forward. Like jokes in Airplane, their delivery, cementing Leslie Nielsen as this kind of comic genius before the Naked Gun movies kicked in. What they did with him is kind of indicative of how important their comedy was. Like he was a straight actor for a long time. He does Airplane. He starts to go comedy. Airplane was the first movie that kind of cemented that comedic slant to him, and he went out on the rest of his career on that. And I think the other performers, even though they're doing a lot of shtick, they play it very seriously, and you can tell they believe, their characters believe they live in this fantasy world. And I don't want to just list all the wonderful bits, but the drinking problem and the gay character that's in the control room. Like, to me, he's priceless. Yes, Johnny. It's a stereotype, but in the same way, it's like he's kind of in on the joke, and he's just, as a character, so flamboyantly hilarious. I can't say enough. Definitely acting for me is very strong in both films, but I wonder what you guys think.
I think the best actor in both movies is Cleveland Little. I think
Correct.
He is the best actor in both movies, bar none. And he was a very successful actor. He won a Drama Desk Award and a Tony Award and an Emmy Award. And he was kind of the Denzel Washington of his time. He was a very accomplished, serious actor. And I think that both of these movies show that comedy is really, really hard because as anybody's ever drawn comedy in the 48, you know that it's one of the hardest categories to do because
when you have to be funny.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you're required to be funny, it's impossible.
And it's one of those things where you're from the writing to the directing to the acting to the editing, everything's got to be spot on for comedy to work. And both of these movies do it so well. And I think a lot of that's due to their cast. I think, but Cleveland Little was definitely the best comedic actor, I think, out of everybody in both these movies.
Yeah, I really felt like the ensemble cast for Airplane was great. When I'm taking my notes, I usually write down, actors and the characters that they play. And I kept going, and I'm like, oh my God, it's got Leslie Nielsen and Lloyd Bridges and Peter Graves, and I'm like, oh my God, there's just so many people in this, and they're all pretty good. They all take their characters and just go with it, and I just really thought that from an ensemble standpoint, that Airplane was just unbeatable. I was like, this is awesome. Everybody's, and then there's all these little cameos and everything. It's just, I just felt like from a sheer number of cast members who were notable, I felt like Airplane kind of had the edge. I agree that Cleavon Little was great, and Gene Wilder was really good in Blazing Saddles. I enjoyed performances from what's his name, Harvey Korman. I enjoyed his performance. Madeline Kahn as Lily von Stupp. That's some funny stuff, and she did a really great job with that. And that song that she sang, I loved it. So I think both of these films offer really strong ensembles, but I just felt like Airplanes was just over the top.
I think we kind of all have touched on both these films. Casts from top to bottom are really great, and Airplane, I think for mostly a ensemble cast. I mean, there are the main characters, but I mean everyone's got their large chunk of the movie. That was great, but I think Blazing Saddles takes it because Cleavon Little and Gene Wilder together, the whole movie, every time they're interacting is just fantastic. I mean, those two can carry just about any film, and especially when they're working together.
Yeah, and I think, what's really funny is that, as Cleavon goes and interacts with different people, you actually see how good of an actor is, and because those good actors do that, they make everybody else that much better. And the scenes with him and Madeline Kahn are absolutely, I crack up every single time. And I love Madeline Kahn, and God rest her soul, she's proof that funny is sexy, because that whole scene with her, and when they turn the lights off, oh my God, I absolutely love that whole thing. And I know it's a rehash from Young Frankenstein a little bit, but I absolutely love the whole scene. But I'm gonna go back to Airplane, I think, and say that while I like those groupings in Blazing Saddle, I think Airplane, top to bottom, all the way down to The Nun, I think they all do such a great job. And it's funny because none of their lines are delivered with comedy. It's taken so seriously that I think is what sells it.
Yeah, well, and also I want to give a shout out to Naked Lady with Big Tits that's in Airplane.
Yep.
I never forgot her performance as a kid. Like I said, I wanted to catch it on HBO at that right time. So,
hey, just two things real quick. Sam brought up Johnny's performance, and his name's Steven Stucker, and he's actually from Iowa. And he was able to ad-lib all of his lines. They didn't give him lines. He just made them all up on set, which was pretty fantastic. And then, crap, I just forgot what else I was going to say. Sorry, it's the cold medicine, and I shouldn't be drinking Johnny Walker Green Label that Tom gave me. But
one thing I just wanted to point out that Tom said earlier about Young Frankenstein being before it, they came out the same year. I don't know which one came out first. I'm not that old.
Okay. No, neither am I. I was -2 at the time. Be. So.
-2.
It was -14.
What year did they come out?
74.
74.
Oh, yeah. No.
He did both movies in the same year?
They were both, according to IMDb, they were both released the same year, which that's pretty impressive.
That's pretty impressive.
That is very impressive.
So I think Mel Brooks wins that round.
Yeah.
Crap. Now I forgot what else I was going to say. Oh, you brought up the whole when it goes dark and she says, it's twoo.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing that Mel Brooks cut out of the entire film was Cleavon Little says after that, "You're sucking on my elbow, baby." He cut that out.
That would have been funny.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Thank you.
There are so many great dick jokes in that scene. I just think it's
it's
a celebration of the penis, and I can appreciate it. It's really
more Schnitzengruben.
Yeah, baby, I am not from Havana.
All right, you guys have anything else to add for acting, or shall we go ahead and take a vote?
I love
just another Iowa person, and Mongo was a University of Iowa football player. So
that's right.
Really?
Yeah.
He was on that team that made the Rose Bowl. Maybe.
Yep. He was also Webster's dad.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I was reading the news. It was just within the last year, and I was like, oh my god, the guy that played Mongo died. Yeah. Oh my god, and the guy that played Webster's dad died. What a rough day. Wait, is that the same? Is that the same guy?
Yeah, that's George Papadopoulos from Webster.
Oh my god, it was the same guy. It needed his death. I needed an obituary to figure that out.
Candygram from
Sorry, Alex.
All right, let's go ahead and put it to a vote, fellas. Sam.
Originally I was going to come out heavy Airplane, but the discussion really kind of locked it in for me. Cleavon Little and Gene Wilder. I can't vote against them. I'm going to have to do Blazing Saddles.
All right. Woo! Gabe.
I think both of them have really strong ensembles, but I think I personally enjoyed the ensemble in Airplane more. So my vote has to go with Airplane.
All right. Mr. Haggis.
I'm going to give it to Airplane for the three guys at the airport, Steve Stucker, Robert Stack, and Lloyd Bridges, because the three of them, when they go to the airplane, I can't wait to get back to the airport in the control room, because those three are just absolutely hysterical together.
Are you a big Unsolved Mystery fan then?
No, I can't watch that show because I can't tell if he's joking.
And Tom Rapp.
If you can tell by my woo earlier to Sam, I'm going with Blazing Saddles. I mean, I said it earlier, Gene Wilder and Cleavon Little. Can you vote against Gene Wilder ever? I mean, he's fantastic in just about everything, and especially in this film.
That's true.
Yeah, there are a lot of Iowa-related individuals in these movies.
Yes, there are.
I'm not an Iowan.
Oh.
You guys just imported me, that's all.
You just said that really fast.
I had to make sure everyone out of that. 11,000 people who listen to this.
And just everybody listening, Madeline Kahn was nominated for an Oscar for Blazing Saddles. So,
yeah,
that's how awesome she was.
She's great. Yeah, I mean, she's. And you touched on Harvey Korman earlier. We should repeat that because he was awesome. He's the one that the first real big laugh that I got out of it. Like there had some little other laughs, but when he starts doing his shtick, it's like, oh.
Now go do that.
I will say with this, I think this category is probably the closest of all the four, at least in my book, because I picked Blazing Saddles, but Airplane it's not a clear-cut winner.
Right. All right. One day in Warner Brothers Studio Commissary, which makes me laugh because I love the commissary scene in Blazing Saddles. Mel Brooks and the other writers were seated at a table opposite John Wayne. The Duke turned and said he had heard about their Western, the one where people say stuff like blow it out your ass. Mel handed the Duke a copy of the script and said, yes, and we'd like you to be in it. According to Brooks, the Duke turned down the offer the next day saying, nah, I can't do a movie like that. But I'll be the first in line to see it. Because originally I think I had heard on an interview that they were wanting him to play Gene Wilder's role. So that would have been a little different. I don't think it would have hit as hard without Gene Wilder, but
it also almost would have added to the humor having the Duke spit out those lines.
Well, that's true. That's true. Bill Murray, Chevy Chase, and wait for it, Barry Manilow were considered for the role of Ted Stryker before Robert Hayes was hired. Can you believe Barry Manilow?
Barry Manilow?
I know. Wow.
So was Isaac Hayes busy that day?
Dodged a bullet there. That's all I have to say. Let's move on to the third round, which is directing. Have at it, boys.
All right. Well, I think, again, I said the writing was kind of meandering. And, I think that ties very directly into the directing as well, so to speak. I feel like Blazing Saddles was kind of, I don't know. It just really did seem stitched together. It didn't seem to have kind of a typical story arc. It just didn't, I don't know. It just didn't flow as smoothly as Airplane to me. Airplane, it's just, they took you from one gag to the next, just kind of flawlessly, seamlessly, and they were all part of forwarding the storyline too, which was pretty simple. But but I just feel like it was a lot smoother, and I feel like the simple things like the cinematography and the editing and those kinds of things were just a lot cleaner in Airplane. So it's Mel Brooks, I think, is going to go down in history as a legendary director. But I'm not sure he really had everything going, at the time that Blazing Saddles was made. I just didn't feel like it was as strong of a directorial effort.
One of the things with Mel Brooks, and I find that when it comes to comedy, is hard. Yeah, and we've said that, but it seems like parody is one of the easier forms of comedy to do. I mean, to be able to look at Westerns and be like, here's what's funny about Westerns, and here's what's funny about Star Wars, and here's what's funny about the old Universal monsters. I mean, it seems like it wouldn't be too hard to, once you have that genre picked, to take it and turn it into a comedy. Whereas Airplane, it's a parody of a disaster film, but at the same time, there's a lot less goofiness, I feel, in Airplane, that everything is taken so seriously, and that there's a real even hand, I think, that Abrams and the Zuckers had over Airplane, and kept it very consistent all the way through. And that's what I think makes it so funny, is its consistent seriousness that the actors have in the material. Whereas Blazing Saddles is kind of all over the place. It's right. At one point it's real loopy. The thing with the Froggy and Harvey Korman in the bathtub, it's like, where's that coming from? And
what motivated that?
Yeah. Whereas Airplanes is very consistent, and I think a lot of that's due to the directing, I think.
Well, and then there was all this stuff they broke the fourth wall a little bit in Airplane, but they did it a lot in Blazing Saddles. There's a lot of this addressing the audience directly, and kind of this non-diegetic music. The whole joke was that, you're hearing this music, and then all of a sudden you think it's just movie music, and then all of a sudden you come across Count Basie in the desert playing it, and so there's this kind of like joke on filmmaking, and it kind of breaks you out of the story and makes you think about it as a film and that kind of thing. Whereas they didn't really do that very much in Airplane, although there were a few times I noticed where they addressed the camera directly, which was a little bit strange, and I'm not quite sure why they chose to do that.
Yeah, I think it was effective in Airplane, though. It was, whereas in Blazing Saddles, I thought they just did it too much. And in Airplane, it was very subtle, but when that character did it, it was a connection with the audience that helped. Was part of that pacing and part of that the way that movie was strung together. They both were very large in scope as far as shooting a Western, even though if it is a takeoff, but then also ending up on a soundstage and then in a big movie theater in Hollywood, like big scope. But to me, it was brought together better by the Zucker brothers, and Mel Brooks did break a lot of ground in '74 doing this type of film, and the way that it ended and the way that it kind of crossed over within itself. So there was a lot of experimentation in that film, and I applaud him for that. But I don't know. It seems to me like Airplane has a little bit neater of a bow on it.
I think part of the neatness in the bow on Airplane kind of goes back to the storyline being one single story, and I kind of like that Blazing Saddle was kind of broken up. They throw in those fourth wall breaks, pretty frequently and pretty obviously, and I always find those funny, especially when they're poking fun at not only themselves but all movies in general. And I think Mel Brooks kind of always, all of his parody type movies are always just kind of making fun of the film industry as a whole, because I don't think he fully takes it as seriously as some do.
Sure, and then, to me, a better example of that when he gets better later, like Spaceballs, when they cut the scene and then the cameraman gets cut because of to me that's a refinement of that. I think he's playing with it a little bit in Blazing Saddles, but some of it kind of it's a real huge jump cut in the film. I think it's a little bit better if it's a little more refined. I don't know how everyone else feels about that.
I mean, the scale of some of those big Western scenes for Mel Brooks to do was also kind of mind-boggling compared to other things he was doing were smaller casts, and then here he's got these big action scenes where he's got horses, he's got guns, he's got explosions. So I think the scale on some of those scenes is pretty immense.
Sure.
Not saying that there were some pretty big scale scenes in Airplane, but I think Blazing Saddles had more difficult scenes to assemble and make look good, but still fit them into a comedy.
Well, what? Yeah. They dressed up an entire jumbo jet as a Jewish guy. That's pretty big.
That was a model.
That's the award for costuming.
Yeah. It was not a model. It was not. Don't ruin it.
Well, that looked like a model.
I thought it was interesting
that totally looked like a model.
I saw people walking around inside it.
I thought it was interesting that they near the very beginning of Airplane, they had that scene where the airplane goes through the window. Yeah, they had that big set piece immediately. It's just like, wow, it's like they're throwing their whole budget right to the beginning of the movie.
Well, and Tom brought up a good point about the scope of it, and also we sometimes we bring cinematography in with the directing, and some of those outside shots, those huge sprawling shots of the open, and a lot of the outdoor stuff in Blazing Saddles is beautiful. And then some of the soundstage stuff is really dull. So it's really interesting to see those contrasted because, man, that stuff in the beginning and every time they're pretty much outdoors, it just pops.
Yeah, and again, I think once they're inside the airplane, it's kind of just they're in that set. I mean, obviously those airplanes are bigger than a real one would be, but it's more contained, and you have all of your actors are right in that small scope of what the lens can see.
Right, but I felt like from a cinematography standpoint, that Airplane was more consistent throughout. Like, everything kind of had the same feel to it, and I felt it was a little bit more kind of spotty for Blazing Saddles.
I would like to interject, but my voice hurts too much.
Stop talking.
Gargle some gin. I hear that's good for it.
Scotch is not helping.
No, it's not supposed to. Or what's wrong with you?
So, you guys ready to vote on this?
Sure.
Well, you got my vote, Mike.
All right, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Eastwood, we're ready to vote.
All right. I'll put you in Unforgiven too, Rowold. All right, Gabe, go ahead.
I think, like I said before, I think that Mel Brooks will probably go down in history as a legendary director. But I think Airplane has the edge in this particular contest.
All right. Tom, wrap.
I'm going to go again with Blazing Saddles, just because of the large scale, the more large scale scenes in the film, directing those and getting you have all of those horses, you got to have all those actors, all those extras, and string them all together and make it look visually pleasing, but also still deliver some punchlines.
Right. All right. Tom Haggis.
And I'm going to give it to Airplane because Abrams and Zuckers did a great job at their consistency and wall-to-wall comedy right there.
All right. And Sam?
I was going to come out, strongly for Airplane, but again, through our discussion, there's 3 directors on Airplane. It damn well better be a lot more streamlined than the work of one man in the 1970s in a new genre. I'm going to give it to Blazing Saddles.
Wow.
Dude.
Tom and Sam keeping my hope alive.
Just come over to the dark side with me. It's fun over here. You can swear a lot more. You could drop
never stopped him before.
All you like.
The Twommy the Twommy curses wherever he wants.
Pace Twommy is a little bit.
For the famous scene of the 747 crashing through the large windows inside the terminal, producer John Davidson mentions in the DVD extras that after the movie he received numerous letters from various pilots telling him that they have come very close to reenacting that very scene in real life, with some pilots admitting that they've come so close as to touch the glass with the nose of their airplanes. Excuse me.
That makes me want to fly.
Yeah. Were they doing it on purpose, or
was this pre or post drinking?
I don't know.
This was probably drinking. So
yeah.
I think drinking didn't stop till late night.
I mean, Denzel did it in Flight. He flipped a plane. And he was all messed up on coke and everything else.
That's true. One studio executive stopped Mel Brooks in an elevator at Warner Brothers lot and told him that several scenes were offensive and needed to be cut in order for the picture to be released.
Only several?
Brooks nodded and agreed to be polite, even though he had no intention of changing a thing, being that he had final cut written into his contract. And like I said, the only thing that he cut was when Cleavon Little said that to Madeline Kahn. All right. We're going to move on to our final round, which is overall. Go get her, Ray.
Ray?
Yep.
You can't call me Ray J, but okay. I think overall, I'm glad you guys brought me onto this one because last time I was on, it was basically a remake of a genre that I hate. No more romances for me. My overall choice, I think, has been pretty obvious the whole time. It's Blazing Saddles. I think the boldness and direct in-your-face humor that they didn't hold anything back, it seems like. Airplane, I can't say anything negative about Airplane because, both of these are obviously look back. We're talking about them right now, and they're two of the best comedies of all time. And I knew this was going to be a tough decision, but after watching them both again this week, Blazing Saddles still sticks with me more. It's got more quotes that I've been saying since I was 14 that I forgot were from Blazing Saddles. There's things I quote. I quote Airplane occasionally and realize it, but after watching both of these, I realized that half of what I say is from Blazing Saddles. Mine is the N-word. I don't use that one. So my thing is overall Blazing Saddles because I can't pick against Gene Wilder ever. Mel Brooks is one of my favorite directors, and I think it's just an overall funnier film.
I'm going to do full disclosure here. And I started watching Airplane very young. We had it on beta, and I watched it probably when I was 7, 8 years old. So I've been watching it for almost 30 years. I didn't watch Blazing Saddles for the first time until I was about halfway through college.
Wow,
which
really?
Yeah, I'm serious. It just wasn't on our radar. My family... Well, we were very big Young Frankenstein fans, but some reason we never watched Blazing Saddles. And so it was like 95, 96 before I saw Blazing Saddles, and already it started to show its age a little bit in terms of some of the jokes. I think had I watched it when I was younger, I'd probably appreciate it a lot more the way I did Airplane. So I'm coming in with quite a bit of bias, I think. So, for all the reasons I've said so far, I'm probably going to go with Airplane 2. So I'm sorry, it doesn't seem very fair.
Wait, Airplane 2?
Airplane 2. We're not talking about Airplane 2.
Airplane 2. I'm going to go with Airplane also, but Airplane 2 is
2
also...
has the Shatner in it, though.
I know, Airplane 2 is so good.
Can we do an Airplane 2 versus Caddyshack 2?
No
Two of the worst sequels ever made.
That's
Airplane 2 is awesome.
Was not one of the worst sequels. It was fairly decent.
Airplane 2 is really good.
I might have to go back and watch it.
Sonny Bono's
I've
in
seen
that,
it
right?
exactly once.
William Shatner, the whole joke with a shh, 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 shh. It's much like Tom, I was exposed to Airplane much earlier than Blazing Saddles. Like I watched it since I was in probably like early junior high, and had seen it so many times. Blazing Saddles I didn't see till I was in college, probably my freshman year in college. So yeah, I had a lot more exposure to Airplane. And the funny thing is, I have more of a desire to see it. It's that rewatchability we always talk about. And Blazing Saddles is amazing in a lot of different ways. But Airplane just makes me happy, whether I see the entire thing or just a clip or 10 minutes. Like that feeling of, feeling in on the joke, part of it, and making you smile, it'll bring me back to that movie every time.
Yeah, I think both of these movies are really very quotable, and it's kind of fun. Like Tom, I use a lot of quotes from both of these movies on a fairly regular basis. And here's one for Valentine's Day. Oh, a wed woes, how romantic. So that's for all you romantics out there.
And also you could use.
I'm pretty sure you four are all married.
What's
Am I
that?
correct in thinking that?
You guys were all talking over each other. What were you saying, Sam?
I was saying I take my coffee black.
And what did you say, Tom?
I think you all four are married, so you better be buying roses.
Gabe is not married.
I am not married, but I did buy flowers.
And I did not buy my wife flowers because she doesn't want any. So
lucky you.
Yeah,
that's a lie.
I'm not sure that Jill would have cared too much either way. I think she likes flowers, but it's not like she's got to have them. She'd much rather have a nice dinner and a glass of wine.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough that my wife doesn't care about Valentine's Day. So
yeah, but they all say that.
Oh
Yeah.
no!
Exactly. You got to go the extra mile.
Oh no! You tell me you don't care about it.
It took me 17 years to figure out that she's been lying this whole time.
All right. Good. Get back to overall, Gabe. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think both of these movies are very funny, are very quotable, are very memorable, and are kind of in certain ways historic films. As light as they seem, they do. One of the things I like about Blazing Saddles is that it seems like just a goofy slapstick kind of comedy. But it's really addressing a very important issue, and it does it very directly, and I give it a lot of credit for doing that. And Airplane, on a certain level, was groundbreaking in that form of kind of goofball humor. So I think both of these films are very, very strong and hold a certain place in history. But I'm with Sam in that every time I watch Airplane, I get a good chuckle out of it. I found myself laughing a little bit more when I was watching Airplane, and so I think overall my vote goes to Airplane.
All right. So Airplane for Gabe, Airplane for Sam, Airplane for Tom, and Blazing Saddles for Tom. Gotcha.
Well. Yeah. Okay. Airplane. Yeah.
Oh, come on. On over, Sam. It's fun over here.
Well, just real quick before I throw in my 2 cents, which are free, I want to ask you guys your favorite quote from each film. And we'll start with Tom Haggis. What's your favorite quote from Airplane? What's your favorite quote from Blazing Saddles?
My favorite quote from Blazing Saddles is, we can play chess or screw. Let's play chess. I absolutely love that exchange every single time. And then Airplane, my favorite one is when he's using a standard phone in the car, which, by the way, I didn't get that joke till I was about 16 years old.
Yeah.
And he says, no, let's keep him at 24,000. No, feet. I don't know why that joke is so funny, but it is absolutely hysterical because I have no idea what's going on the other end of the line. So, yeah, right. Those are my 2 really favorite jokes.
All right, Sam.
That's really tough. I think probably my favorite bit from Airplane has got to be the jive talk. Just like the whole thing. It's just like, Chump don't want no help, Chump don't get no help. It's just, Barbara Billingsley, it's Beaver's mom. It's like that always sticks out in my mind. Blazing Saddles, it's not necessarily a quote, but it's more like a character and a reference. They keep talking about Howard Johnson and the hotels and stuff. So I thought that was pretty fun.
Gabe?
Yeah, well, it's tough. Like I said before, both of these movies are really quotable. I don't know. For some reason, I always go back to the Candygram for Mongo in Blazing Saddles. For some reason, I don't know why. That I use that one all the time. I think most people don't know what I'm talking about when I do that, but for some reason, and I like the part afterward where he says, "Yeah, but the hard part was inventing the Candygram." And then Blazing Saddles, Airplane, has got so many. God, it's just like endless. But actually, I don't know if it's I'm not really following the rules. My favorite, one of my favorite parts in Airplane is when Leslie Nielsen is describing the symptoms. And then the pilot is going through them at the same time, like as he's describing them. And I just love that part. I just think it's really well done. The timing and the pacing is just right, and it's just really funny. So I think that's my favorite part of Airplane.
The Ethel Merman gag. I can't believe I didn't say it. That funny. Always gets me. Like since I was a kid, I didn't even know who Ethel Merman was. I was just like, this is hilarious. You'll be swole. You'll be great. Gonna get the whole world on a plate. Then she gets like sedated and keeps singing, and she goes, I love
it. Tom Rapp.
Okay, so I already said the one from Blazing Saddles because I've been saying it forever, and I always forget where it was from, and it's just Where the White Women At. I say that at parties all the time, or say it at bars, and usually gets a good laugh, and then people don't remember what it's from. So, and then Airplane. Airplane was tough too. I think it's a gag that they kind of do a bunch of times where somebody will be described something, and one of them where he's like, a hospital. What is it? It's a big building with patients, but that's not important. They do that probably half a dozen times in the movie, and each one always, you know the punchline, but you laugh anyways.
Yeah.
Well, probably my favorite from Airplane has got to be Johnny, what can you make out of this? I can make a hat, I can make a roach, I can make a pterodactyl, and then and it's usually, for me, it's the McCroskey Johnny. I'm with Tom when he said he couldn't wait to get back to the airport, because for me, I just love the airport scenes. And he said, McCroskey goes, I need the best man on this, someone who knows the plane inside and out and will crack under pressure. How about Mr. Rogers? When Johnny walks by. Like, those just kill me. But for Blazing Saddles, my favorite has got to be, someone's got to go back and get a shitload of dimes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that makes me laugh out loud every single time. Yeah. And then I also love Piss on You, I'm working for Mel Brooks, just because I use that line when I'm on set with a gaffer in Iowa here named John Van Allen, and someone asks me to do something and I tell them, Piss on You, I work for John Van Allen, and walk away. So it's kind of become his favorite thing. But for me, it's kind of surprising that some of you saw Airplane earlier, didn't see Blazing Saddles till later. My dad, as he would say, is a very big horseshit and Gunsmoke fan. He loves Westerns. And so as a kid, whenever my mom would go away or she was at work and Dad was home, we would watch Blazing Saddles together. That was our thing. And then whenever Airplane was on TV, like on Channel 5 or whatnot, ABC or whatnot, we would always watch that. So these two movies mean a lot to me, just because I was able to share a lot of time with my dad watching them. And it's just, they're both with me a lot. They mean a lot to me just because I've watched them ever since I could remember. And I do have to say, I did go see Blazing Saddles in the theater just a couple months ago. They had it out, and it was a different experience altogether, watching it with a movie theater full of people that knew every line. I mean, everyone's quoting stuff, you can see their mouths moving, or they're getting ready to laugh, or they laugh a little too early because they're knowing what's coming up. And I have to say, I really did enjoy that experience, and I wish they would do that with Airplane, because I would go. Just to me, these two films are probably in my top 3 favorite comedies of all time. They're timeless to me. But anyway, enough of me yammering. Let's move on to our recommendations for this month. And Tom Haggis, you start us off.
Well, my recommendation, I don't know. I'm not going to recommend a movie. I'm going to recommend a book that everybody needs to read before they ruin it with a movie. And the book is...
Sorry.
Are you okay?
I'm sorry. That was a great quote.
The movie's called Ready Player One, and it came out a couple of years ago, and it's absolutely fantastic. And it's the story of... it takes place in the not too distant future, and the idea behind it is that this mega billionaire has created this environment on the internet where people can go in and interact and live their lives and go to school. And he's hidden 3 keys and 3 gates inside this virtual reality. And this guy is completely fascinated and enthralled with the gaming, music, and movies of the 1980s. And so there are so many references and everything to all of the stuff that I grew up with, war games and the music that we liked, Talking Heads and stuff like that, and the video games we grew up on, like the Atari 2600. And it's this one person's story about how he went through and found this. I'm not making it sound interesting at all. Anyway, It's really good. It's by Ernest Cline. It came out in 2011, but there's word that they're going to make it into a movie. The problem, of course, is that with all the music and movies and games that are in this, they can't do it. There's no way one studio is going to be able to do this get the rights for everything that they need to get to complete the story. So they're going to wind up ruining it. They'll change everything to Warner Brothers movies or something. So if you're a child of the 80s and early 90s like I am, this is definitely a book you should check out. It's a great run. I read the whole thing in about 3 days, and I don't usually do that. So Ready Player One by Ernest Cline.
Oh, that's I'm going to have to look and see if I can get that on audiobook, because I love to listen to those when I'm traveling around. So I'll see if I can get it.
You can.
It's really amazing.
I'm looking at the website right now.
The one of the cool things is Ernest Cline, then after the book had been out for a year, he told everybody, oh, hey, by the way, there's 3 keys and 3 gates inside using the book. And so everybody went back and started taking the book apart. And it was online, and he gave the winner not a brand new, but a DeLorean, just like his.
Awesome.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
That's awesome.
Yeah, he owns a DeLorean. It's got a license plate that says Ecto 1 with not a working, but a flux capacitor in it. The guy is completely cool. I absolutely love it. And it's a great book, so I would definitely recommend it. So.
I like that you had to clarify that it's not a working flux capacitor. It's not operational right now. Use that thing to see some serious shit.
You know what? This stuff goes out on the internet, and some asshole is going to be like, "Oh, it was not a real working flux capacitor.
That's
it's just
true.
Christmas lights." But you know what? The one in the movie wasn't real either. Smartass.
Oh my God, that was great. Sam, you're up.
Thanks, Sam.
I have to, you don't need me to tell you to go see this, but I saw this movie last week, and it was just...
You got some music.
I do have some music. It's awesome music. It's Lego music, and it's the Lego movie.
You took my pick.
You think it's dumb? You've got to go see it. It's not. It's hilarious.
Fantastic.
It's fun. There's so many different levels to it. If you have younger kids, you can take them to it. And you'll get your own experience out of it, but you get some voice talents of like Will Arnett. You have some surprises in there. I'm not going to give the spoilers away, but there's some real geeky kind of surprises at some points.
Yes, sir.
You also get people like Charlie Day and of course Will Ferrell. It's just a lot of fun. Will Forte, Dave Franco, Morgan Freeman, Jonah Hill. I mean, it goes on and on. It's so much fun. If you want to go have a good time at the movies and just not have to think about any of the craziness that's going on in the world, go see the Lego movie. You'll enjoy it.
Oh, man, Sam, you took my pick. All right. Gabe, go ahead.
I predictably kind of always try to select a movie that's similar to what we've discussed in our episode, and I think I had a hard time. There's a lot of these movies that are like this that are kind of fun, like Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part 2 and Top Secret and that kind of stuff. But I think I'm going to actually suggest Johnny Dangerously this time.
Oh, nice!
It's a fun movie. It's maybe not a great movie, but I remember enjoying it quite a bit when I watched it. And that's another one that I quote from time to time, where the guy's swearing and it doesn't come out quite right, you ice hole and that kind of stuff.
Fargan ice hole.
Fargan ice hole, yeah. Yeah, and the Tommy Two Time and that kind of stuff. I think there's a lot of fun kind of quotable stuff in it, and it's kind of in the same vein as what we've been talking about tonight. So go see Johnny Dangerously if you've never seen it. It's pretty fun.
All right. Tom Rapp.
I'm going to sort of suggest 2. One is completely serious. It's Her, the new Spike Jonze film. If you haven't seen it, I think it's one of the most original scripts that I've seen in the last 5 years. I mean, everything else is a remake, a reboot based off a book. He created this world that is kind of his view of our current world in the future and the way we're going with social media and everything. And you can't go wrong ever with Joaquin Phoenix, in my opinion. He's the weirdest fucking dude on the planet, but he is amazing in everything that he does. So I would suggest everybody go see that. It's very strange. There is a sex scene between Joaquin Phoenix and a computer. I'm not spoiling anything. It's in the preview. And then another preview I just saw for a movie that I really want to see is Zombievers. Have you guys seen this preview?
Yes.
I've heard about it.
Yes.
Oh, I think it was originally going to be a made-for-TV movie or like DVD, but since they released the trailer, it's gotten so much buzz, somebody might pick it up and distribute it, and I will be seeing it in theaters because it looks like the most absurd movie since Sharknado.
All right.
And I'm sure that's why it got greenlit
Yep.
in the first place.
Yeah.
Because of Sharknado.
And I love horror movies, and I love parody horror movies even more. So I'm going to be going to see that. If anybody wants to come with me, I will buy the popcorn.
Fair enough. Well, my pick is an actual John Wayne comedy, and it's called North to Alaska. It's just about Sam and George strike gold in Alaska. George sends Sam to Seattle to bring George's fiancée back to Alaska. Sam finds she is already married and returns instead with Angel, who happens to be a prostitute. And, of course, John Wayne plays Sam, and Stuart Granger plays George Pratt. And it also has Fabian in it as George Pratt's younger brother, Billy. And there is an actual scene in that film, which I love. And it's when John Wayne is drinking and he's love crazy over the girl that he brings back. And shenanigans go on from there. But since Sam took my pick as well, which you should go see the Lego movie if you haven't seen it already, I figured I would suggest a John Wayne comedy that happens to be a Western as well. So North to Alaska was made in 1960. All right. Well, you guys want to find out who won? I mean, we all know it, but
Yes.
here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is Airplane!
So, Tom, was that as lopsided as you predicted?
I thought it'd be a little bit more so. There's a little bit more love for Blazing Saddles than I thought. But I know that Mike loves all things 24, and Gregory Itzin, President Logan's in Airplane, so you get bonus points for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know who else is in Airplane that's interesting is, what's his name? Jonathan Banks, I think his name is. Yeah, Jonathan Banks, who played Mike Ehrmantraut in Breaking Bad.
Is he really?
He played,
I never
he's the
liked
guy.
him.
And I was I saw that later. After I saw the movie, I was doing my notes and looking at the cast. And I'm like, he's in that? He plays the guy who's at the radar, and the radar keeps changing wildly, and he's like, saying,
Oh, really?
That's him. That's him. I was like, holy crap!
He did
I knew
that.
he was-
Hair.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was 30 years ago.
I remember he was in-
He doesn't look the same at all. I mean, he's got a whole bunch of hair and just doesn't look the same.
That's pretty
Yeah, 'cause
awesome.
he
that
was
you saw
in
that.
Beverly Hills Cop. He kind of started to look like he does now. You can kind of see a little bit in Beverly Hills
Yeah,
Cop.
I think I vaguely remember that. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on and tell people where they can find you, or you can tell them what you're doing with your life. Let's start with Gabe.
You can find me on Facebook, or you can check out our website, onegenomeShort.com. And like I've said for the last several months, there's not a lot there yet, but I am working on it. There will be stuff there. You'll be able to check out some of our 48-hour films and some other stuff.
All right. And Sam.
Getting busy with the 48-hour film project. This will be our 10th season in Des Moines. So we're trying to put together the best competition that this city's ever seen. We're going to look for a lot more teams than we've ever had. Going to give away a lot of money, and can't wait to see what people can come up with in 48 hours.
All right. Tom Haggis.
Facebook, Vimeo, and that's it. So, yeah, Wedding Day Rewinds, where we put up all our wedding films, do some really good stuff. Really excited. Wedding season for me ended a couple weeks ago and fires up again in 2 more weeks. So
That's like a NASCAR schedule you got there, Tom.
Yeah. We crown a winner, and then we turn around and get going on the next one. So.
All right. And Tom Rapp.
You can find my group, Evil Grin Gift Box. We have a website, evilgringiftbox.com. We're on Facebook, as well as we tweet from the handle Shrieking Tree. If you saw Rise of the Wuffins last year, that is one of our, 16 episodes of the first season of our web series. So if you like that sort of dark, weird, I don't know how else to describe it, humor, we have episodes like that. We are currently scripting season 2 and planning to shoot in the spring. So we're just waiting for the snow to go away because we got a couple big projects coming up that we want to get out there for people on the internet and stuff like that. As well as I'm also a photojournalist at KCCI, so you can see me every weeknight at 5, 6, and 10.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for being back on.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
And thanks for keeping hope alive for Blazing Saddles.
Oh. Never give up.
Well, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter as well. You can follow the studio on Facebook and Twitter. And, of course, you can follow the podcast on Facebook and Twitter. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. And we would appreciate it if you could leave us a review on iTunes or whatever podcasting service you use. But for March, we're going on the high seas as Captain Phillips takes on a hijacking. So for Gabe, Tom, Sam, Tom, and myself, thanks for listening and go catch a flick.
You know what they say. See a broad to get that booty yak 'em, leg her down or smack 'em, yak 'em. Cold got to be. You know? Shit.
Hell, I was born here, and I was raised here, and dadgummit, I'm gonna die here. And no sidewinding, bushwhacking, hornswoggling, crocker is gonna roll my biscuit cutter.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.